Y'all have probably watched Patrick's pros and cons of living in Fort Collins, Colorado video, and if you haven't, go check it out. But today I'm going to be bringing you my perspective of living in Fort Collins, Colorado from a slightly different perspective. I am not a Colorado native, let alone Fort Collins, Colorado native like Patrick is. I am a transplant, as we call people who move from out of state to Colorado. I'm also slightly younger and obviously bringing a female perspective. So super excited to be sharing with you guys today the 5 pros and cons of living in Fort Collins, Colorado. Fort Collins is constantly ranked as the best place to live or #1 place to live in the United States, and I'm not surprised why. Ever since I've lived here, I've seen multiple articles, multiple newspapers coming out talking about how Fort Collins is ranked as the best place to live. Now, I agree with a lot of the pros and cons that Patrick shared. However, there are some that I really don't care about or don't think about, and because I'm not from here, we are going to be having a quite different perspective on some things. I'm originally from the United Kingdom, and so if you hear me say something funny, it's not on accident, but I've lived in America most of my life. I grew up just outside of Seattle in Redmond, Bellevue, Falls City, Washington, if you're familiar with that area. I have lived here for 7 years this month, which is crazy to think about. I actually moved 2 years ago. Today is 2 years since I bought my house up in Wellington, just 17 minutes north. However, I work here, I do my shopping here, my friends are here, my church is here. Most of my life is still in Fort Collins, and so super excited to be sharing about the 5 pros and cons with y'all today. Con number 1, you have to shovel the snow. Now you may be thinking, isn't that obvious? Maybe, but where I come from, when it snows, everything shuts down. I truly don't think my parents own a shovel. But here, whether you're renting, whether you're buying, you better get yourself a shovel, because within 24 hours of a storm ending, you need to shovel your sidewalks. Otherwise, the Fort Collins Code of Compliance will be knocking at your door. Now, there are parts of this that I think are a great perk, and I'm going to talk about that in one of my pros. But con number 1 is you have to shovel your sidewalks, whether you want to or not, within the first 24 hours of a storm ending. Con number 2. Our airport is 70 miles away. So if you travel a lot or you just don't love driving, it's a bit of an inconvenience. It's about an hour away if there's no traffic. So if you're cheap like me and like the early mornings, I get that 5 a.m. flight, so I never have to worry about traffic. But if you're traveling at a bit of a later time where traffic could be an issue, taking E470 is going to really solve that problem for you. You may have some traffic heading down to the exit for E470, but once you're on there, it is smooth sailing. It's almost desolate, honestly. At 5 in the morning, it's a little eerie, but my con number 2 is that our airport is 70 miles away. Con number 3, this one is also one of Patrick's from his video, is lack of diversity. We call Fort Collins Vanilla Valley. And I didn't think much of it, I'm going to be honest. Where I came from was very diverse. We have a lot of very major, Boeing, Microsoft, things like that. And so that brings people from all over the world to work in Seattle, Washington. And then before that, London, also an incredibly diverse place. As I have been living here longer and longer, I am realizing Fort Collins does lack some diversity. I realized this for the first time when I was working in restaurants, and people I was serving would ask me, "What are you?" And it was never asked in a rude way, but I was like, oh, I've never been asked that before. And it's because there's not a lot of Turkish people that live in Fort Collins. However, I will say, one time I was in Muggs in Old Town, and I walked into 3 gentlemen who were from the same small village of Cyprus where my family's from. So pretty crazy. It's a small town. But definitely, there's definitely a lot more white people around here than there are in other places that I've lived. And really the bummer for me is that there's not the food of my people around, like anywhere close. I have to go down to Denver if I want some Turkish food. So truly it's more the lack of authentic cuisines that I really love. Indian food, Thai food. Now there are some really good places in Fort Collins, and I have found my favorites. They're just more far few and in between. With that said, I have not met anyone that's not felt comfortable living here. This is a super welcoming environment and community. But it is true, it's definitely a more white town. Con number 4, Colorado is a landlocked state. It's where I come from. We had the coast, we had the ocean, and so sometimes my parents would pack us up. We'd go for a beach day, get to look for starfish, see anemones, hear the waves, put our toes in the sand. However, that's not going to be something you get to do in a landlocked state where we just have lakes. Now, if you're like me, I personally would rather swim in a lake than I would the ocean. Unless we're talking about the Dominican Republic, then I'm all about the beach. But being a landlocked state, beach day is not going to be something you get to enjoy, and that's definitely something that I grew up having. Also, if you love your seafood, when I go home and you taste the sushi, you can taste the ocean in it. That's not going to be as common here, but I will say that in Old Town, there is a restaurant, Jack's Fish House, they fly in their fish fresh daily, never frozen. And so if you are a seafood fanatic, if you like your fresh seafood and you're worried about how you're going to get it in a landlocked state, there's definitely still options for you. Check out Jack's in Old Town. Con number 5, and this one's been hitting me a little personally. Hail, as well as really heavy rains, and not the best drainage systems around here. Like I said, I came from Washington. It will rain like drizzle for 2 weeks straight. And so the city is very set up with cat eyes on the road, reflectors, big drains. There is no question that when it rains that the water is going to go where it needs to go and the road is going to be easy to see. I can't say the same thing for Colorado. Colorado's very hippy-dippy, natural, which I love. But the way that our drainage system works, if you go outside your house and look around, there's not like typical drainage systems like there is in other states. Now, it does not rain a lot here, but when it does, it can rain really hard. And so the roads will sometimes definitely flood. And then when you're driving at nighttime, there's not many reflectors on the road. So I definitely have a hard time seeing. I may be the only one. I do wear my glasses, but I still struggle sometimes. And speaking of hail, you maybe have already heard it. I'm not talking like hail. I'm talking hail in Colorado. And my car outside will show you what happens when you're stuck in 2 storms. So if you're renting or buying in Fort Collins, Colorado, a garage may be something you want so you can park your car in it and don't have to worry about the random hailstorms that come in the month of July. Now for the fun part, the 5 pros of living in Fort Collins, Colorado. The first and the 5th one that I'm going to share are my absolute favorites, but I'm excited to share them all with you. So number 1, this is a small town. Now, this is where me and Patrick's perspective is totally different because he grew up here. It was way smaller when he was younger than what it is now. However, I came from a pretty big city, from another really big city. And so Fort Collins really is a small town vibe. I joke, everybody knows everybody. And it's not the kind where if you walk into the supermarket that you're going to see everyone and they all know your business. It's definitely way too big for that. But you're probably going to walk around and see someone who you don't realize knows someone that you know. And that's very likely. The number of people I've met where we've all known the same people is just, it's insane. And I love it. It really creates community here. I've lived here my parents actually just moved here a few months ago, but I've lived here without family for the majority of my time here. And I've never felt more at home and more like I've had a community. So definitely love the small town vibe, getting to know people, getting to find your favorite coffee shops, getting to find your favorite auto shops that you use, and as you start to bring them your business and you refer their business, that they do favors for you. And it's a really sweet kind of town to live in. So pro number 1 is that Fort Collins has a small town vibe. Pro number 2, while I was complaining about having to shovel the snow, our city is equipped for the snow. And where I come from, like I said, when it snows, everything shuts down. My parents don't own a plow. My parents don't own a shovel, let alone multiple people here have plows on the front of their trucks. And I don't even think we had a city plow where I lived. And so while where I come from, everything was shut down, here life keeps going. So if you think school's going to cancel, it's probably not. The plows are out laying salt down before it even starts snowing. You're required to shovel your sidewalks. The city handles a majority of the rest. Now, yes, during heavy snows, especially in more shaded neighborhoods, you're still going to have ice packed maybe through the entire winter if enough sun doesn't get on it. However, you can still go out, you can still enjoy the outdoors, even if it's winter and we just had a snowstorm. There's been many times that we've had heavy snow and the next day it's been 25 degrees, blue skies, not a cloud, and you get to go out and enjoy. Now, I mentioned I live in Wellington. We don't have that rule. And so while I don't have to shovel, it's a real inconvenience if I don't, because then when I want to go take my dog out, I'm walking along my neighbor's yards and none of them have shoveled. And so I have to walk in the street. And so definitely love that Fort Collins allows you to still live this outdoor lifestyle, still allows you to go outside and enjoy, even if we've just had a ton of snow fall. Pro number 3, we have so many restaurant options. I took this from the Coloradian in 2017 and couldn't find anything more recent, but it still speaks volumes. Fort Collins has over 620 brick and mortar restaurants. That is 1 for every 258 residents. You could basically go to a different coffee shop, restaurant, tea house, whatever, almost every day for about a year and a half, and could go somewhere different every time. I mean, how incredible is that? This is not that big of a town. I love that we have a ton of local options. Now, if you love Starbucks, sweet, we have one on every corner. But if you like those more hole-in-the-wall or the more aesthetically pleasing coffee shops, that's personally my favorite, where the coffee beans come from I don't know, Brazil, or just, it's just a bit more authentic and the pastries are homemade. We have so many places like that here in Fort Collins. So I love the options for food. I love that we have so many local restaurants that you can choose from. We do have chains, but we don't have an excessive amount of chains, I don't think. And so while I may not find the food of my people here, I definitely still have my favorite Indian place. I have my favorite Thai place, and love how many options we have when we decide we want to go out. Pro number 4, Colorado exudes health and active lifestyle. And I'm someone who came from an area where, it rains, people are active, but it's just different. There's a very different vibe here because of, we are a pebble throw away from hiking trails, from biking trails, from a reservoir you can go paddleboard in or swim out or boat at. I ride a horse up in LaPorte. There are so many activities you can do outside here. And what I love is that the community exudes this active, healthy lifestyle. And so we've had multiple clients, mine and Patrick's, that have come here craving to live a more active lifestyle. They've either come from places where it does rain all the time, or I've had people come from Texas where they're like, all summer we're stuck in the house in AC. And so what's so amazing is that while we do have some extreme weathers here, you can enjoy outdoor activities all year round. And whether you are someone who's wanting to have an active lifestyle or you want to continue having an active lifestyle, you're going to have that here in Fort Collins. I personally am the healthiest I've ever been since living here. I went through a pretty remarkable health journey living here and have just really learned to take care of myself, and it helps having people around you that care about taking care of themselves as well. And so my pro number 5 is the active lifestyle that you're able to have and just the culture that it is here in Fort Collins, Colorado. All right, number 5. This one's a big one for me and hits home because of where I came from. We have over 300 days of sun here in Fort Collins. And so what that means is, now, you can totally go do stuff in the rain if you want to, but I personally don't love that. And so by being sunny over 300 plus days of the year, you truly can live that outdoor lifestyle year round. Winter, summer, like while we get to enjoy all the seasons, we also get to enjoy being in all of them. And so for me personally, I have a super energetic dog that needs exercise every day, does not matter the weather, so it's very convenient that it's sunny majority of the time. I also love riding horses, and so I much prefer to do that dry, and so that's one of my favorite things about living in Fort Collins. I do want to make a comment too about the kind of heat that we have here. I think that it's a con for a lot of people is how dry it is here, but for me, coming from a humid state, I personally love it. My hair loves it, and I just love that even when it's 10 degrees, it feels like 20 where I came from. Or when it's 95 here, it feels like 80 where I came from. The dry heat without having all that moisture in the air, just for me, makes it a lot more enjoyable, whether it's super high temp or super low temp. Now, may that mean that you need to get a little bit more of a hydrating shampoo? Sure. Some lip balm? Sure. Maybe a little nasal thing? Sure. But extra lotion, get that extra hydrating lotion? Maybe. But for me, I'll take dry weather over humid weather any day. So there you have it. Those are my personal 5 pros and cons of living in Fort Collins, Colorado. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. Maybe I'll be able to keep doing. Maybe Patrick will let me keep showing up on his channel. And if you have any questions about relocating to Fort Collins, Colorado, we help so many people from out of state move here. Every time I get to help someone move here, it is just a reminder of how blessed I feel to get to live in a city like this. And every time I get to show people why it is I fell in love with this place, and getting to watch them fall in love for their own reasons, but also very similar reasons. So if you have any questions about relocating here, reach out, find us on Facebook, Instagram, DM us on here. You'll get to work with our team. We have many personalities, so you can pick one to work with, but really we are a team and you'll get to work with all of us. So thanks so much for watching, guys. See you next month.